Empire thinking versus employee thinking. The mental revolution. Let me ask you something that will expose the fundamental difference between those who build empires and those who serve them. What if I told you that every morning when you wake up, you're making a choice between two completely different ways of thinking, and that choice determines whether you'll spend your life building someone else's dream or commanding your own empire? What if I told you that the gap between employee thinking and empire thinking isn't about money, education, or connections, but about a mental revolution that transforms how you see time, ownership, problems, and your own potential? Tonight, you're going to discover the exact thinking patterns that separate empire builders from lifetime employees, why most people remain trapped in employee psychology even when they start businesses, and how to make the complete mental revolution from serving wealth to commanding it. But first, let me take you inside the moment when one man made the choice that would transform him from employee to emperor and change American industry forever, the Great Mental Revolution of 1875. It was a cold December morning in 1875, and Andrew Carnegie was standing in his small Pittsburgh office, staring at a telegram that would force him to choose between two completely different ways of thinking. The telegram was from his boss at the Pennsylvania Railroad, offering him the position of division superintendent, the pinnacle of employee success, the security every worker dreamed of. But Carnegie wasn't thinking like an employee. While his employee mind whispered about the safety of a steady paycheck and the prestige of a corporate title, his empire mind was calculating something entirely different: how much wealth the Pennsylvania Railroad was generating and how little of it would ever belong to him as an employee. Carnegie realized that he was facing what he would later call the great choice, the moment every potential empire builder faces when they must choose between the security of employee thinking and the sovereignty of empire thinking. Employee thinking said, take the promotion. It's good money, steady work, and respected position. Empire thinking said, you're building someone else's empire. Build your own. That morning, Carnegie made the choice that would transform him from a telegraph operator to the richest man in America. He rejected the promotion, left the Pennsylvania Railroad, and began thinking like an emperor instead of an employee. That mental revolution created the Carnegie Steel Empire and made him wealthier than the railroad that had employed him. Carnegie had discovered what Napoleon Hill would later identify as the fundamental difference between empire builders and lifetime employees. They think in completely different dimensions. The employee mind versus the empire mind. Through studying hundreds of successful empire builders, discovered that employee thinking and empire thinking operate from entirely different mental frameworks. Employee thinking characteristics. Authority figures. Limitation accepting. Believing resources and opportunities are controlled by others. Risk avoiding. Choosing comfort over growth. Empire thinking characteristics. Expansion over security. Authority taking. Creating permission rather than seeking it. Opportunity creating. Generating resources and possibilities through innovation. Strategic risk taking. Choosing growth over comfort. Hill discovered that this isn't just about business. It's a fundamental psychology that affects every area of life. The 5 pillars of employee thinking. Hill identified 5 mental pillars that keep people trapped in employee psychology, even when they start their own businesses. Pillar 1, time for money thinking. Employee minds believe that income comes from trading time for money. Even when they start businesses, they think like consultants, selling their time rather than building wealth-generating systems. John D. Rockefeller. The time liberation. Rockefeller's transformation from bookkeeper to oil emperor demonstrates the complete rejection of time for money thinking. When Rockefeller was making $4 per week as a bookkeeper, he could have focused on getting raises or finding better paying employment. Instead, he made a mental revolution. Rockefeller's time thinking revolution. Income source redefinition. Rockefeller completely redefined how wealth created them or system building, creating oil refineries that generated money without his direct time investment. Ownership focus, owning wealth-producing assets rather than selling personal time. Multiplication thinking, building one thing that could be replicated many times. Passive income creation, developing revenue streams that worked while he slept. Scale obsession. Rockefeller thought in terms of massive scale from the beginning. Market domination, thinking about controlling entire industries rather than competing within them. Geographic expansion, planning national, international operations rather than local businesses. Vertical integration, owning every aspect of production rather than just participating in one part. Legacy building, Rockefeller thought in terms of generational wealth. Generations, institution building, creating organizations that would outlive their founder. Historical impact, thinking about transforming entire civilizations through business. Pillar 2, security over growth. Thinking employee minds prioritize security over growth, choosing safety over sovereignty. They want guaranteed outcomes rather than maximum potential. Henry Ford, the security rejection. Ford's decision to leave his secure engineering job at Edison Illuminating Company to build automobiles demonstrates the complete rejection of security thinking. Ford's security revolution, risk redefinition. Ford completely redefined what constitutes real risk. Security illusion, recognizing that employee security is actually risky because you control nothing. Growth, security, understanding that the biggest risk is not growing and developing. Capability building, meaning that developing capabilities provides real security. Uncertain embrace. Ford learned to thrive in uncertainty. Unknown navigation, becoming comfortable with not knowing exactly how things would work out. Adaptation mastery, developing the ability to adjust and evolve as situations changed. Opportunity creation, learning to create opportunities rather than waiting for them. Control assumption. Ford took control of his financial destiny. Income control, determining his own income through business results rather than employer decisions. Work control, choosing his own projects and focus rather than accepting assignment. Future control, building his own future rather than depending on employer stability. Pillar 3, permission-seeking thinking employee minds wait for permission from authority figures before taking action. They need approval, validation, and external authorization. Thomas Edison, the authority revolution. Edison's approach to invention and business demonstrates complete independence from permission-seeking thinking. Edison's permission revolution, self-authorization. Edison authorized his own action, development priorities. Timeline creation, setting his own deadlines and work schedules. Standard setting, defining his own measures of success and achievement. Expert opinion independence. Edison operated independently of expert consensus that experts said were impossible. Industry standard transcendence, creating new standards rather than conforming to existing ones. At customer education, teaching people to want things they didn't know they needed. Industry innovation, creating entirely new industries rather than competing in existing ones. Future definition, defining what the future would look like rather than adapting to current conditions. Pillar 4, resource limitation thinking. Employee minds believe that resources, money, connections, opportunities are controlled by others and are scarce. They see themselves as dependent on external resource providers. Walt Disney, the resource creation revolution. Disney's approach to building the Disney empire demonstrates how empire thinking creates unlimited resources through imagination and innovation. Disney's resource revolution, imagination as resource. Disney understood that imagination is ultimate resource, created resources through strategic relationships. Talent attraction, drawing talented people who wanted to participate in magical creation. Financial partnership, attracting investors who believed in the vision. Distribution alliance, creating partnerships for worldwide content distribution. Asset development, Disney built assets that created continuous value. Intellectual property, creating characters and stories that could generate revenue forever. Non-reproducible experiences. Brand building, developing a brand that represented quality and magic. Pillar 5, comfort zone thinking employee minds prioritize comfort over growth, choosing familiar challenges over transformative ones. Colonel Sanders, the comfort zone destruction. Sanders' decision to start KFC at 65 demonstrates the complete rejection of comfort zone thinking. Sanders' comfort revolution, age irrelevance. Sanders rejected age-based comfort thinking. Regardless of age, challenge acceptance, taking on the biggest challenge of his life at 65. Limitation rejection, refusing to accept age-based limitations on possibility. Failure redefinition. Sanders redefined the meaning of failure rather than defeat. Persistence power, understanding that persistence transforms failure into success. Resilience building, developing unbreakable mental toughness through challenge. Potential realization. Sanders was committed to realizing his full potential. Years perfecting his chicken recipe. Business model innovation, creating the franchise model for rapid expansion. Legacy creation, building something that would outlive and honor his life. The Empire Thinking Framework, Hill developed a complete framework for thinking like an empire builder rather than an employee. Dimension 1, time perspective. Employee thinking, hours, days, weeks, months. Empire thinking, years, decades, generations, centuries. Dimension 2, ownership perspective. Employee thinking, owning a job, owning skills, empire thinking, owning assets, owning systems, owning markets. Dimension 3, problem perspective, employee thinking, problems are obstacles to avoid. Empire thinking, problems are opportunities to exploit. Dimension 4, money perspective, employee thinking, money comes from employers. Empire thinking, money comes from value creation. Dimension 5, growth perspective, employee thinking, growth comes from promotion, expansion. The mental revolution process. Hill identified the exact process for transforming from employee thinking to empire thinking. Stage 1, awareness, recognizing the prison. Most people never natters they're thinking like employees. The first stage is recognizing employee thinking patterns and understanding how they limit potential. Stage 2, rejection, refusing the limitations. Once you recognize employee thinking, you must consciously reject it. This means refusing to think in terms of time for money, security over growth, or permission seeking. Stage 3, adoption, embracing empire thinking. You must consciously adopt empire thinking patterns, value creation, growth pursuit, self-authorization, resource creation, and comfort zone destruction. Stage 4, integration, making it natural. Empire thinking must become your natural way of thinking, not something you have to remember to do. It must become automatic and unconscious. Stage 5, expansion, building the empire. Once empire thinking is integrated, you naturally begin building wealth-generating systems, creating value, and expanding your influence. Modern empire thinking examples: Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Fun S2, empire thinking, created the everything store that owns e-commerce. Elon Musk, multiple companies. Employee thinking would have built a career in existing automotive or space industries. Empire thinking created entirely new industries through innovation. Sarah Blakely. Spant Pew, employee thinking would have pursued advancement in corporate sales. Empire thinking created a billion-dollar fashion empire with Reed Hastings, Netflix. Employee thinking would have optimized video rental operation. Empire thinking transformed global entertainment consumption. The Employee to Empire Transformation Protocol. Week 1-2, employee thinking, audit datify how you currently think about time, money, security, and growth. Document thoughts that reflect employee psychology. Recognize areas where you're seeking permission or avoiding risk. Week 3-4, empire thinking, installation. Begin thinking about value creation instead of time trading. Start planning systems instead of seeking security. Practice self-authorization instead of permission seeking. Week 5-6, resource creation, development. Identify ways to create resources rather than depending on them. Develop skills in opportunity creation and problem solving. Build networks and relationships that multiply capabilities. Week 7-8, empire building initiation. Begin building systems that can generate wealth independently. Start thinking in terms of scale, expand, and market creation. Growth opportunities. What opportunities for expansion exist today? Problem solving. What problems can I solve that others are avoiding? Midday empire check, 5 minutes. Perspective adjustment. How can I see this situation from an empire perspective? Learning integration. What did I learn about empire thinking today? Tomorrow's empire. How will I think and act like an emperor tomorrow? The compound effect of empire thinking. Unlike employee thinking that creates linear results, empire thinking creates exponential outcomes. Wealth multiplication. Empire thinkers create systems that generate wealth continuously, leading to exponential financial growth. Influence expansion. Empire builders create value for others, leading to expanded influence and authority. Opportunity creation. Empire thinking generates more opportunities, creating positive feedback loops. Legacy building. Empire thinkers create things that last beyond their lifetime, building generational freedom generation. Empire thinking creates freedom from time trading, location dependence, and authority submission. Advanced empire thinking strategies. The Rockefeller method. Industry domination systems that make competition irrelevant, create standards that others must follow. The Ford system. Innovation empires use innovation to create entirely new markets, build production systems that democratize luxury, think in terms of transforming civilization. The Disney Protocol. Experience Empire. They create unique experiences that cannot be replicated. Build emotional connections with customers. Think in terms of cultural impact and generational influence. The Carnegie Approach. Knowledge Empire. They use knowledge and education to build influence, create systems that multiply human potential. Think in terms of societal transformation. Your empire revolution begins now. And now we come to the moment of ultimate choice. You've discovered the fundamental difference between employee thinking and empire thinking. You've seen how Carnegie, Rockefeller, Ford, Edison, Disney, Sanders, and countless others made the mental revolution that transformed them from employees to emperors. The question isn't whether empire thinking works. The greatest fortunes in history prove its power. The question is, will you make the mental revolution or will you remain trapped in employee psychology forever? Most people will hear about empire thinking and find reasons why it won't work for them. Some will try it for a few days and return to the comfort of employee thinking. A few will make the complete mental revolution and will discover that empire thinking naturally leads to empire building. Which group will you join? Remember, Carnegie faced the choice between security and sovereignty. He chose sovereignty and built an empire. Rockefeller faced the choice between trading time and building systems. He chose systems and dominated an industry. Ford faced the choice between safety and innovation. He chose innovation and transformed civilization. You face the same choice every day. Every morning when you wake up, you choose between employee thinking and empire thinking. Every decision you make reflects either limitation or sovereignty. Every action you take either builds someone else's empire or builds your own. The mental revolution begins in your mind. The empire follows in your life. Your imperial transformation starts now. If this message has awakened the emperor within your mind, if you're ready to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an empire builder, if you're finally ready to make the mental revolution from trading time to building wealth, then I need you to take action immediately. Like this video if you're ready to reject employee thinking forever. Subscribe to this channel if you want ongoing training in empire psychology. Comment below and declare, I reject employee thinking. I choose empire thinking. I build my own empire. Share this message with someone who's been trapped in employee psychology. When you help others make the mental revolution, you strengthen your own empire thinking. Remember, every day you think like an employee is a day you build someone else's empire. Every moment you think like an emperor is a moment you build your own sovereignty. Carnegie could have remained an employee. Instead, he became an emperor. Rockefeller could have traded time for money forever. Instead, he built systems that created generational wealth. Ford could have stayed safe in his engineering job. Instead, he transformed the world. You have the same choice. You have the same potential. You have the same opportunity to make the mental revolution from employee to emperor. The empire is waiting for its builder. The sovereignty is waiting for its claimant. The revolution is waiting for its leader. Make the mental revolution. Reject the limitations. Choose empire think. Your empire awaits your command. Build it with your mind first, then with your actions. The emperor's revolution starts now.